You have the agenda in front of you. Is there any additions to the agenda? Go ahead.
Chair, I move approve the agenda with an addition of an item to new business, item 7.6, Lake George cleanup.
Thank you. Any other additions? Here none. Someone move the approval of the agenda as presented with the addition.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Thank you, gentlemen. You have in front of you minutes from March 23rd in camera and regular, and April 13th committee of the whole and in camera. Has anybody had a chance to look through those? If so, would they approve the approval of the minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since my microphone's already on, I'd like to move the approval of the March 23rd, 2016 regular council meeting minutes, the March 23rd, 2016 in-camera meeting minutes, the April 13th, 2016 committee of the whole meeting minutes, and the April 13th in-camera meeting minutes.
Thank you, Councilor. Do we have a seconder for that? Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Question being called. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Thank you, gentlemen. Warden's remarks. I'll be brief. I just want to very quickly go through, for anybody watching on television, the spring cleanup. And there'll be the first 2 weekends in May, Friday and Saturday, the 6th and the 7th, and Friday and Saturday, May 13th and 14th. Monday and Tuesday pickups will be on Friday and Saturday, and Wednesday and Thursday pickups will be on Friday and Saturday of the second week. Thank you. And now we have a public hearing, a request to rezone from rural development to rural commercial. Go ahead, Brad, you're ready, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Excuse me. Mr. Eric Saunier made an application to the municipality back on February the 11th. He was requesting the rezoning of a portion of a property in Somerville on the Mood Road, on the east side of the Mood Road. He intends to develop and operate a small fish market and corner resale store on the property. The subject property itself is about 6 acres in area. However, he only wishes to rezone a portion 200 feet by 200 feet. This is in keeping with the requirements for our rural commercial zone. The proposal meets all the requirements of the municipal planning strategy policies and the land use bylaw provisions. He intends to build a small 20-foot by 20-foot building for his fish market. It's a small building intended to contain a walk-in cooler with an exterior delivery door, an office area, a bathroom, and a retail area. The property, as I mentioned, is on the east side of the Mood Road. It's bounded in part by property that's also owned by the owner on the south and a residential property to the north. The property has been approved by the Department of Transportation for commercial access approval, and also by the Department of Environment for the installation of an on-site sewage disposal system. The report that I prepared was vetted by the Planning Advisory Committee on March 22nd that passed a motion to recommend to Council. Council in turn on March 23rd passed a motion to proceed to this public hearing tonight on April 27th. The 2 Vanguard notices required by the Municipal Government Act were published April 12th and April 19th. And my office nor the municipal office received any request for information on the application. It's very straightforward. I know that Mr. Saunier has had several years of experience in the fish business in Pickney's Point, and like I told him and I tell others, if I had a dime for every time somebody asked me where you could get good fresh fish in Yarmouth, I'd be rich. And I think that if he runs a good business like a fresh fish business, that I think he has a good chance of success, and I wish him all the best. And as I mentioned in my report, it meets all of the requirements of the policies of the planning strategy and provisions of the bylaw, and I recommended to the committee and to council to proceed with rezoning the property from rural development to rural commercial for Mr. Saunier to run his fish business.
Thank you, Mr. Fulton. Have we received any correspondence at the office And there's no one in the audience. It is a public hearing, so what's the wishes of council on the bylaw change? Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the Municipality District of Yarmouth amend the land use bylaw to rezone the property of Eric Sonier, PID number 902-30186 Mood Road, from rural development to rural commercial.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Contrary, nay. Motion carried. I have one quick question.
Certainly.
We would notify by mail, but is it possible, I know that time is of the essence for him for the tour season. Do we call them too also to get them so they can move, or do we wait till they receive it in the mail?
I will contact him and tell him that the, also, it is a requirement of the Municipal Government Act to publish a notice in the very next Vanguard. We have that notice prepared.
To appeal, if anybody wants to.
Exactly. There has to be a notice that the council did pass
Yep.
this motion
Good.
To amend, and then there is an appeal period that follows, 14 days. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Thank you, council.
Would there be other items, Mr. Warden?
I don't think we have anything else on our agenda, no. No.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to Business Horizon, 6.1, appointment to Yarmouth Town and County Crime Prevention Association. Okay. Does Liz, you have a name? Okay, I think in this motion, to decide, do you want to make the appointment for 2 years or 3 years? I probably would recommend 3 because we have trouble sometimes if someone's willing to serve, or is that too long, do you think? What's typically do we do, Liz, do you know? 2 or 3? So, Councillor, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'd recommend 3 years for the reasons you've stated.
Okay. So is that appointment named public, Liz? It's not, I don't have it here. Dolores, okay, so the applicant, the appointment would be Dolores Atwood. So, John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we appoint Dolores Atwood to the Yarmouth Town and County Crime Prevention Association for the term of 3 years.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Contrary, nay. Thank you. 6.2 is appointment of Councillor Gerard LeBlanc to Waste Check Board. If there's no opposition to that, or somebody, go ahead. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Question being called. All in favor, say aye. Thank you, Councillor, for taking on that. Appreciate it. Pardon? Well, it's just formality that had to be approved by a motion. Yeah. Okay. We have 6.3, mostly an FYI. I think you had a chance to review it. The deadline is June 30th, 2016 for the Municipal Government Act review. Was there nothing else on that? It was just information tonight, wasn't it?
Correct. Staff
Did
is
you-
still
okay.
staff is still trying to find the time to make that review, so there's no comment as yet.
Okay. Recommendations from Committee of the Whole meeting on April 13th, Yarmouth Environmental Think Tank. You have some examples there. Council, I think, was in favor, in theory anyway, of a no idle sign being put up in our parking lot, and you have some examples there in front of my, for the camera, in front here. So, Councillor.
Yes, I'll make a motion that we accept item 6, or the sign that's identified by is 6 on the Bristol board, and we post it in the front of the municipal building in an appropriate spot as soon as possible.
Before that's seconded, did council, it was asked that it was idle free for a month. Did we wish to do that for a month, or would we like to leave that on a permanent basis?
Permanent basis.
Okay, so the motion is number 6 on a permanent basis?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Contrary, nay. Thank you, gentlemen. Motion carried. 6.4.2, Cape Pursuit yard lights. I'm not sure what we were... Right. We weren't clear on the LED part, but we are clear on the rest of it, okay. Yes. But the funding arrangement, okay. Councillor.
Right, I'll move that we approve the letter that Mr. Shea put together for council, indicating that we would make a payment of $100 a month for lighting the Friends of the Light lighthouse area.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder? Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? John?
I'd also, I'm in favor of the motion that was just made. However, I'd like to request that staff look into it and let council know in a next available council meeting that if the lights are LED and if it possibly could be done that we convert those lights over to LED. It may save council for the power in the long run.
Thank you. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. 6.4.3 is Mariner Center feasibility study. What's the wishes of council?
I think all that's necessary is just again to publicly confirm the decision that was made in camera regarding the funding of the feasibility study for the Mariner Center.
Mr. Chair, the dollar amount in addition, it was $17,000 additional dollars or $18,000?
It was 17 to top up the original 8 for a total of 25.
So I'll move in support of the Mariner Center feasibility study, an additional $17,000 on top of the $8,000 that we've committed to this point to move that study forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder for that? Any further discussion?
Question?
Question being called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion carried. Okay, I'm sorry. Yep. Yes, I shouldn't say yep. Yes. We'll record that. Motion carried. These requests for grants, nothing time sensitive there. They can all be moved to budget. Okay. So unless you want to deal with an individual one tonight, I would recommend that these be forwarded to budget.
I'll make a motion that we forward all of those requests to budget.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that? Any further discussion?
Question?
Question being called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Thank you. Spring cleanup. I think there'll be notices going out in the Vanguard, and I mentioned it at the start of the meeting, and we have the flyers here. So, Trevor, did you want to speak, Trevor? Your light was on, or?
Oh, sorry.
So, I guess if any of your residents have any questions, they can either call you or they can check with the office if they're not sure of the dates. You have your March development report there. You've had a chance to review it. Someone move that we approve it. John, go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we accept the March development report as presented.
Do we have a seconder? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Contrary, nay. Thank you. 7.4, grading of Park Drive. Councillor, did you want to speak to that? We have 2 emails there. Did you? Okay.
Yes, there were 2 residents that contacted me regarding the rough shape of Park Drive, but I understand that grading has taken place just this week, so that's good news. I'd also like to have staff look into the possibility of perhaps chip sealing that road, because again, that one in the subdivision, also in the Hebron area, those are the 2 roads that we own. They're often dusty, and staff is I think, doing generally a good job at keeping the roads graded and chlorided. But long story short, it takes a lot of time, and ultimately, I think surfacing those roads appropriately would save the infrastructure, and we do own the infrastructure as well over the long term and better serve the residents. So if staff could look into some costing and you can start having some conversations about moving forward, that would be very much appreciated.
Thank you. Moving on to, I have it open, I'm gonna, Heritage Advisory Committee recommendation, Rennerton Free Baptist Church. Have you had a chance to review that, or I'll give you a minute or two to go through it? Yes, sorry. There you go.
I'm on that committee meeting, and yesterday we had a meeting, and their problem, they haven't applied for a grant, and they were wondering if they could they still could apply.
Go ahead.
It's kind of funny, Councillor Gerard, that you mentioned that, because actually I had a conversation with Mr. Trask a few hours after I arrived back in Yarmouth County, Nova Scotia. I advised him that the council has a grants policy of the 15th. However, as we just move forward, some late requests, that he get a hold of the organization in regards to that church, and that council could consider possibly helping them out. I've never made no promises, but I know council does have as a policy that the cutoff date is April the 15th. But as we've seen, which we approved or moved forward to budgeting before, we also keep a contingency fund on things that may come up from time to time throughout the year. I had advised Mr. Trask on that. I also brought him our grants policy and the forms to fill out. He's also going to be in contact with Francine, and I also gave him the contact of Liz to contact in that regards on the processes of that. So Mr. Trask is fully aware of what could possibly happen. Obviously, I've never made no promises, like I said before, but I've been in contact with him as well.
Gerard, quickly, so that they would possibly apply for a grant to repair to the original or to the newer style and just keep some of the addition,
They've been told that it has to be done.
right, but to the original, or are they going to be allowed to do the a little smaller and just,
They could. It could be.
okay,
It could be a smaller one.
all right. So, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we move this to grants, even though it's past the time. I think we should consider it as an important ask. So I believe that's something we should do. So I'll make that a motion.
Yeah, if,
Gerard,
I think,
Greg.
I think really to do it, notwithstanding that they've passed the deadline, I think they should at least submit the formal paperwork and complete the application. Then we can recognize the application and recognize that it's late, and then it can get into the granting budgeting process. And then council can consider it at that point, and then take into consideration the fact that it's late. But I think they should at least be advised that if they want consideration at all, they need to go through the process of completing their application to the best of their ability and submitting it very soon.
Mr. Chair, so I was going to make a comment after the motion carried to that effect, so that we would accept it, and but it would have to be obviously put in as a formal request, because it's just certainly an email and a motion from the organization. So
So basically, you're just allowing the grant process to move
move
forward,
forward.
even though it was late. Is
Absolutely.
That's just your motion?
yes, it is.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? John, I'm sorry, your light's flashing, go ahead.
Yeah, it was already seconded, so.
Oh, that's what,
I
okay.
do have another comment. On my conversations with Mr. Trask, I should also note that they were in the very early processes of this, because they had to find out what they could do to the church. And from my understanding, from my conversation with Mr. Trask in the meeting with the Heritage Committee, that they were able to put on a smaller steeple. And then I had asked Mr. Trask, I said, was there any costing done? He said, not as of yet. So I think it's important that we at least see a cost on that as well, but I'm full support of the motion put forward.
Yes.
The reason that this is on the agenda is not for budget, it's because the Heritage Advisory Committee made a recommendation for approval of their application for substantial alteration. So council would need to either approve or deny that recommendation from the Heritage Committee. That's why that item is here. Before you can go ahead and find a right and have the delegation, you can go ahead with making the steeple from a larger steeple to a smaller.
Okay, so, and the Heritage Advisory Committee is fine with them is recommending that we allow a smaller steeple.
Yes.
So I think that would probably be another separate motion.
Yes.
I'll make that.
Well, we'll move on the first one
Question?
first. Question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. Now on, John, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that council accept the recommendation from the Heritage Committee to allow a change in the structure of this heritage site.
I'll second that.
Moving to any further discussion?
Question?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Liz, for straightening us out there a little bit. Okay, you have your committee reports?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
it was item 7.6 that was added.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. I didn't. Go ahead. I didn't see. I didn't have it on the screen. I'm just whistling right through here. So go ahead.
That's quite all right, Mr. Chair, because sometimes computer systems do not keep up with any changes and stuff made up to the agendas, and this was added. It's easier to have paper, isn't it, so you can write it down. However, I asked to have item 7.6 in regards to the Lake George watershed environmental cleanup. As we all know, and many of us attended the community meeting, there was a lot of concern and there was a lot of solutions and things that were going to possibly be done out in the area. Therefore, I'm going to make this a motion that the Municipality District of Yarmouth ask Town Council and the Yarmouth Water Utility that our council is updated monthly on the progress of the Lake George cleanup and water testing.
Moved. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, this is just a motion that I just came up with. If any members of council wishes to make a subsidiary motion or add to this or possibly subtract, please feel free. I think it's very important that a council is updated on the progress and anything that may go on out there. I don't want to be asked by residents out in the area what's going on. I've heard rumors that they've possibly windrowed up some of the material that was laid down in that area. I can't confirm or deny that. So this correspondence between the Municipality District of Yarmouth and the town and water utility would be very helpful on keeping a very transparent process. And so we are aware of what's going on. I like to be informed of what's going on.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Question?
Question being called. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. You have your committee reports. John, go ahead.
I'd like to inform council that the PAC earlier this month has been postponed until May. And also, I do not have a YASTA report. Unfortunately, I could not make it to the meeting that was held yesterday afternoon. However, I will make sure that all the correspondence and anything in the agenda and all the information that was put forward will be on our next regular council agenda.
Thank you, Councillor. No, we didn't, do we? Yeah, didn't do. Do we have any recommendations from in camera? I don't. I think we've dealt with everything. Thank you. All right, move to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Raymond.